is now your last chance to get a decent price on a 996 generation Porsche 911 Turbo. How's it going? Hope you've been able to get out there and drive something fun. The Porsche 911 Turbo has always offered supercar performance in a package that you can use daily. While it won't stand out in a crowd and a lot of people think you just have another 911, when you drive it, the extra power and the ability to go fast is incredible. The 996 generation of the Porsche 911 Turbo is currently the most affordable 911 Turbo you can buy. And here are 3 reasons to buy a 996 generation Porsche 911 Turbo while they're still affordable. Reason number 1, the Mezger engine. Unlike most 996s, the 996 Turbo doesn't have an M96 engine. The M96 engine had the infamous IMS bearing issues, which vary depending on the year, and there is a way to fix it. However, the 911 Turbo from the 996 generation, also the GT3 and the GT2, all use a Mezger power plant. This was an engine designed for racing and basically a carryover from the 993 with, some added stuff and of course water cooling. Thanks to the 3.6 liter twin turbocharged flat 6 engine, the 996 generation of the 911 Turbo can rocket from 0 to 62 in 4.2 seconds as claimed by Porsche. That's with manual. If you go for the Tiptronic, it's still pretty fast. It's a 4.9 seconds with a Tiptronic. Of course, if you follow Porsche 0 to 60 times, you know that they tend to be much more conservative than the actual times, at least that magazines and such are able to get from them. Often they're about half a second more conservative. So at least in theory, you're talking 0 to 60 times in the high 3 seconds from a car from the mid 2000s. Now, while overall the Mezger engine is just a wonderful power plant, everything has its own self-destruct, and the one thing that you really need to look at with a Mezger power plant from the 996 generation are the coolant hoses. The coolant hoses in a 996 Porsche 911 Turbo are glued. So a rubber hose is glued onto a metal fitting. Especially when driven hard on the track and over years of use, the glue breaks down and the hoses can come loose, which leaves coolant all over your track if you're driving on a track. Fortunately, there are ways to strengthen the hoses so that they aren't likely to have an issue. Different production things, and there are aftermarket companies that you can buy different hoses for these cars. Hoovy's Garage made this famous when he continued to drive on the track and do a victory lap, spewing fluid everywhere. And here's reason number 2, the X50 package. If someone buying the 996 generation Turbo ticked the X50 checkbox on the options list, then that 911 Turbo is a little bit more special than a regular 911 Turbo, and they're all pretty special. Thanks to different turbos and a different ECU, the engine output grows from 415 horsepower, which is still pretty good for the time, all the way to 450 horsepower. So when boost hits, it feels like a freight train hits you. But fortunately, it's a twin turbocharged engine, so there isn't quite the same turbo lag that you're going to feel with a single turbocharged engine. In fact, you'll probably feel more turbo lag with the new 718. Of course, an X50 package will raise the price of the car, as with things such as M30 packages, things like that on other models. It'll raise the price a little bit, and they are much more difficult to find. But if you can manage to find one and you get one, you won't be sorry. And here's reason number 3, the value for money. When you consider the car that you're getting, especially how much these cars cost initially, in the early to mid 2000s, these cars are over $100,000. That was a lot of money back then. I mean, it still is a lot of money, but that was really a lot of money back then. That's for a car that can easily keep up with and often beat Ferraris of its era. Prices have gone up a little bit recently on the really good examples, so expect for a good car to pay about $40,000. For a car that is in fair condition, prices drop to about $30,000, but remember, sometimes the most expensive Porsche is a cheap Porsche. Now these prices are for manual cars. If you get a Tiptronic, expect to pay about 15% less for a Tiptronic model, so they're a bit cheaper. So if you really look and you don't mind putting some effort into it and doing a little extra work, you may be able to find a fair condition 996 Turbo with a Tiptronic for about $25,000. Just watch out for what you might have to do to it because it could get quite expensive from there. And the great thing is right now is a great time to buy because of the current craziness with all stay-at-home orders and the economy going all over, which is terrible in a lot of ways. But if you are in the market for a 996 turbo, you might be able to make someone a really good deal, especially if they really need to sell. They'll be a little bit more motivated to sell. Or if you find it at a dealership, you might pay a little less at a dealership right now because dealerships just aren't moving product. So should you buy a 996 turbo now? Yes, you should. Recently, excellent examples have seen prices raise quite a bit, but prices of all these 996 turbos are definitely at a plateau. Some of the better conditioned ones have gone up, some of the lesser conditioned ones have just plateaued. But overall, the 996 turbo is trending up. So if you can swing it, it is probably the best bargain on a 996 you can get right now, along with probably the C4S. And even if you buy one and it doesn't go up in value, you get a car that in its day was a supercar for a very affordable price and in an unassuming package that will blow just about anything, certainly of its vintage, off the road. Of course, with any old Porsche, make sure to do a pre-purchase inspection because otherwise this could end up costing you a lot of money. Now, if you'd like to see me go over the pros and cons of buying a 996 C4S, check out this video. Otherwise, check out the other video that YouTube thinks you should watch. They are the experts after all. If you want to talk about the 996 Turbo, I'll be down in the comments. Now get out there and drive.